Hello, everyone. That was such a great stage that Suzanne set for this conference and for this conversation about talent and opportunity. I'm Carolyn Cawley, and I'm president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And what this team does every single day is come to work focused on three things: how business does well, does good, and prepares for the future. And like all of us, what we have seen with awe over the last certainly 3 years is businesses in every community across this country doing all three of those things, taking care of people, taking care of communities, trying to create more opportunity to get us back to economic recovery. Businesses are doing that every single day, rebuilding and retooling. And for us, it's really an inspiration of creativity and innovation. And when we're here at the Chamber and the Chamber Foundation, what we hear a lot from companies, large, medium, and small, is what does good look like? Or I'm doing a really good job, but what does better look like? What can I learn from other people? So what we really love about our jobs is that we get to host conferences like this and bring together role models and leaders who are doing a lot of things right and seeing a lot of success. And that is just exactly the description for the guest I get to talk to today, Laura Fuentes. She's the Executive Vice President and CHRO of Hilton. So welcome, Laura. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Carolyn.
I have so many questions for you, but audience, first you should know what her title means. It means that she is overseeing more than 400,000 employees at 7,000 properties in more than 120 countries. It's a big job in a really big company all over the world. And I have so many questions to ask you, as I'm sure our audience does. Not all of our organizations are as big and complex as Hilton's, and the job that Laura's doing every day across languages and cultures and countries, but we sure can learn a lot from her about purpose and how that's driving recruiting and retention and upskilling and employee engagement. So let's get right to it. One housekeeping item to the audience, which is if you have questions, please put them into the chat and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. So Laura, I'm going to get it started, and I want to take us back to a minute to the pandemic, which, the hospitality industry was hit so hard, and certainly Hilton could have been broken by that experience. You had to suspend operations, and what had been quite a productive hiring machine stopped cold, as I've heard you say. But now you're back better than ever. Can you tell us what the big changes were and what your talent strategy is today?
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, hospitality and Hilton were hit really hard, right, over the pandemic. If you think of a hotel operationally, from the moment it opens, it never closes, right? It's open during holidays, weekends, all night. And so for the first time in our hotel's existence, we did have to suspend operations. And that meant, pausing the recruiting engine, which annually was producing over 60,000 hires. It meant, in a heartbreaking way, furloughing and laying off some of our team members as we fought to survive. And what I would say one of the greatest lessons learned from that period was, there's a saying that goes, crisis doesn't build character, it reveals it. And so for us, this was a moment to lean into our values, not to say we're going to take a pass because things are really hard now, but actually a moment where we were going to lead with our values more than ever. And so we did things like, donate 1 million room nights to first responders, or turn our recruitment engines and try to place our team members at other companies who are experiencing surge hiring. So that values-led approach, I think, transcends any crisis and continues to define our talent strategy today. One of the things that we saw during the pandemic is that workers all around the world, executives, gig workers, hourly workers, knowledge workers, started doing some soul searching, right? And they started thinking about the purpose of home and work and family. And do I have this balance right? Am I working for the right type of company that's aligned to my values? And all that soul searching, I think, resulted in people saying, we don't want just a work experience or an employee experience, or to, our lives to fit around work. We want a human experience at work. And I'd say that is the defining aspect of our talent strategy, is to build an experience at work that feels fully human and that is grounded in inclusion, wellness, growth, and purpose.
The fight for talent it's real. It's no joke. It's what we read about in the headlines every day, the worker shortage, the shortage of skills and talent. I'm curious, how did you restart? I love that you called it your hiring engine. How did you restart that engine from a cold stop?
Yeah, so we had to, correct the signal that we had sent into the market, first of all, right? So once your industry and company goes through such a massive sort of exogenous, shock, we needed to tell our story once again in the market. So the first thing we're starting, if you think about a marketing funnel, is, building awareness. And so we have launched this summer and are working towards an even broader employer branding campaign so that we can tell the world that we're back in business, we're hiring, and we're a great place to work. One thing that I'm super leading the pandemic and through the pandemic, we continue to be recognized by Fortune and Great Place to Work as one of their top workplaces in the world. And we actually moved up in our rankings. And we reached the Diversity Inc. Hall of Fame as a top 50 company for diversity, make number one on that list during the height of the pandemic. And so we need to tell that story to the world. So they don't just look at hotels and look at, oh, are you guys still open? Are we at risk of furlough? So the first is building that awareness. Then, we've got to move faster. So we looked at our recruitment processes and optimized every step of the way because we know that candidates have, many times multiple offers. They need to make decisions quickly. So we've scaled things like same-day career fairs where we put people through interviews, on site, give them an offer at the end of that process and have them start the next day. And that's been super successful at most of our largest hotels. We also are looking at new pools of talent, right? So you mentioned it in your remarks, and we heard it from Suzanne as well. We need to open up and widen the aperture of where we're looking for talent. Because yes, there are people who will seek us out and want to have a career in hospitality, but we also need to inspire those who maybe didn't consider that and, do well and do good as we look to, provide opportunities for second chance communities. Assimilate and help refugees find new homes, new jobs, new careers as they join a new country, whether that be the US or Europe. We're looking at folks who may have retired and left the workforce and how do we bring them back? Disadvantaged youth. So we've started this focus with new pathways for talent, which has been really successful and modeled after the work that we did years ago and continue to do in the military space. And then lastly, I'd say we've really taken a look and are continuing to redefine our onboarding experience and going beyond the first day, the first hours. But what does that first 90-day period look like? And for our hourly team members, this is when we see the highest points of turnover. So we want to make sure that we're actually quickly creating communities of care, mentorship buddies, that they learn the skills to do their jobs well, but more importantly, that they become a part of the culture. So that's a few examples of how we've taken a look at our recruitment efforts to really drive progress because it is a super tough, labor market. It's certainly been in all the headlines, but we're making good gains with these strategies.
As a company with a global footprint, I'm wondering do you do things differently in different countries, or what are some of the cultural differences coming out of the pandemic that you've seen?
Yeah, such a great question. As you mentioned, we have over 400,000 team members around the world working for 18 plus brands. We operate in over 100 countries. And interestingly, over the last couple of years, the talent and labor issues and themes are not surprisingly, but they're quite similar, right? So when we think about the shock of, hospitality coming to a standstill, the competition from other industries, what humans are looking for out of work, right? And whether that be that sense of purpose, the growth, the feeling of inclusion, these are all quite similar. So our strategy at the top is the same. Of course, local execution and partnerships can vary a little bit. And, the way that we communicate to potential candidates, the social media platforms that we use, the schools that we partner with, some of the technology that we deploy to recruit better, to train our folks, those can be different and customized to our local markets. And of course, we look at what is competitive pay, what are benefits that need to be offered according to different regions. But the philosophy, our approach to talent is shared and transcends those geographic borders. And I think that's what actually gives us broader and deeper sense of purpose and culture.
Hmm.
And in fact, we see a lot of our leaders, a lot of our team members, cross borders. I was just on a call this morning with our general managers from Cawley, from the Caribbean and Latin America. And they were telling us that one of the greatest promises that we can make and keep to our team members is the ability to travel the world, and not only, for leisure, but actually for their careers. And so we want to make sure as they do that, that they feel like I'm not joining a different Hilton when I go from Mexico to the US to Asia, but that it is, that continued sense of culture.
What a great place to have a career and be able to travel around countries with the same company. How does a person grow at Hilton? And one of the kind of trends that we've been hearing from different companies is kind of a growth in internal candidates and
Yeah.
internal promotions, and really looking at your internal talent pool as a strategy as well. Is that something you've been doing at Hilton?
Yeah, we have for years. And, you mentioned there's been so much said about talent and headlines in the news around HR topics, if you will, right? It's HR through clickbait. And one of, you know, my least fond ones is this whole, relevant, right? But this conversation about the great resignation. And so for us, we want to make Hilton the land of the great opportunity. And I think we should always have a healthy mix and balance of opportunities and growth with internal talent and bringing external folks because they offer new perspectives. But we've seen a huge increase in our senior most positions, our directors and above around the world, being filled internally compared to 2019. So I think that number has jumped from, we were in the 30th percentile to over 55% of our director and above roles being filled internally. So our approach to talent development, leadership development, and ultimately growth at Hilton, sort of relies on a few pillars. One, we want to build scalable platforms of growth that sort of democratize learning. And so the foundational platform that we rely on is Hilton University. We have millions of classes here, people logging in from all around the world to learn the basics of hospitality, specific skills to their job, to continue to plug in and drive some of the leadership development. We supplement that with talent accelerators. So our leadership development programs that at every step of our career journeys, whether you're a first-time people manager, moving up to that first team leader at a hotel, moving up to general manager, ready to be a corporate VP, brings our top talent together. So these programs are ones where our executive committee, our CEO act as faculty. We bring in external providers to help teach leadership and wellness and sustainability, inclusion. And then we allow all of our participants to sort of lean in and be part co-designers of those programs. So that's sort of another key aspect of our learning strategy. And then lastly, we really try to speak to bespoke moments and business needs. So for example, during the pandemic, we needed to train our team members in entirely new protocols for how to service guests, service rooms, make them feel safe. And so we'll supplement all of those learnings and leadership development with, business specific needs. And one partnership that I'd love to call out that we're really proud of, and we signed just last year, is with Guild Education, and it's really focused to the earlier comments of what we heard from Suzanne on allowing team members to multi-skill, upskill, and ready themselves for the future needs of the company and their future career goals. And so this is a debt-free way of allowing team members to access that high school diploma they never completed, or college education credits they may not know they have access to. So we're seeing some really great pickup there and great career coaching that comes as a result of that. So, we've seen good stats, great promotions, great growth, great engagement from our team members, and hopefully we're delivering on being that land of great opportunity internally.
Well, congratulations on all that you're building and rebuilding. It really is remarkable. We've only got a few minutes left, and we've talked about a bunch of numbers of employees, percentages of things. It's kind of like baseball sometimes, where workforce can become a book of statistics. But I've heard you say, people aren't stats. And to that, I would add, jobs aren't stats. We know what a job means to a person and to a family and a community, certainly to the economy. But I wonder if you'd close us out on how people-centered you are and about your company's purpose and where that came from.
Yeah, of course, it's a great way to end our conversation. Look, because of the scale that we operate in, I need data to help inform our decisions. But ultimately, driving purpose, inclusion, and a sense of belonging for 400,000 souls is what motivates all of us, because we are here to help make their dreams come true. We know that when that occurs, they contribute back to their communities. They build the next generation of dreamers, of leaders, of business contributors. And our purpose was born over 100 years ago. Our founder, Conrad Hilton, one of his autobiography is behind me on the shelf, but he started this company on the noble premise and idea that travel could contribute to world peace, and that Hilton was going to fill the earth with the light and warmth of hospitality. And so from the HR perspective of the work that I'm fortunate to lead with an incredible team, we think of as a holy mission, right? And our purpose in life to connect these 400,000 people, to inspire them to do great things for our guests and in service of our communities, and to build those connections one person at a time, one exchange at a time, that ultimately build a better world. And so our purpose is both incredibly small, big and aspirational, but it is each of those small acts. And from an HR and talent perspective, it is making sure that expectant mother has the leave and the support that she needs, that frontline hourly worker has the flexibility, even though they may need to come to work in person, but that they can schedule their shifts in a way that makes sense for their personal lives, that they have access to their pay in a more flexible manner, that they can take care of their mental wellness needs and those of their family members, and that importantly, everyone can reach their full human potential. And that is through learning new skills, applying those skills in an exciting way, seeing the impact of your work. So to me, yes, data is super important. I'm an engineer by background, and that is how we make business decisions and make sure that the things that we're putting out in the world have a return for our business and for our team members. But I'm motivated by the purpose that connects us and ultimately the impact of making people's lives better. And I think it's a really extraordinary responsibility that I'm privileged to be a part of.
Well, Laura, it's been a privilege to talk to you today. I have so many more questions. I think we covered the audience questions through the conversation that you and I had today. So thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. And I think we've all learned a lot.
Thank you so much for the important work that you do. Thank you for having me and for allowing me to share the Hilton story. Take care.
Great. Thank you again for being here.